It is the most important question that anyone has ever asked. And one day we will all ask it with urgency. What will happen to me when I die? We can ignore the question for a time. We can drown it out with busyness and worldly concerns. We can compartmentalize it like Scarlett O'Hara in Gone with the Wind. I'll think about that tomorrow. But someday, in some situation, the question becomes unavoidable and demands our full attention. The ultimate question can surface unexpectedly. It can happen when we have a scare that reminds us of our mortality, a near traffic accident, a potential cancer diagnosis that turns out to be benign, the death of someone we love or someone our own age. And if we are conscious and aware as death is actually approaching us, it is the only thing at that moment which will matter. Even lifelong atheists and cynics can't avoid it. Award-winning and best-selling Christian author Lee Strobel's new book, The Case for Heaven, fearlessly faces the most profound question. Strobel's story is a dramatic one. An atheist, as he grew to adulthood, he pursued with academic excellence and relentless intellect his twin passions of law and journalism. And with degrees in both fields, including a law degree from Yale Law School, he became the legal correspondent for the Chicago Tribune. Through groundbreaking investigative journalism, Strobel exposed frauds and cracked closed cases, and then his wife became a Christian. And it rocked his personal world. He set out on a quest for 18 months to disprove the claims of Christianity, and at the end, became a believer himself. Lee's previous books have included his personal spiritual journey, The Case for Christ, and a follow-up, The Case for Faith. He tackled the issue of science versus faith, confronting the assumptions he had been taught in college, namely that the universe is a product of random chance alone and humans are biological accidents, and he published The Case for a Creator. Lee Strobel was a speaker at our Bonita Christian Forum a decade ago. It was a critical and near-fatal health crisis several years ago that actually started him on the quest that resulted in his newest book. He developed a case of hyponatremia, an often fatal drop in blood sodium level that landed him in an emergency room, drifting in and out of consciousness. He says about that incident and its personal impact on him, suddenly it wasn't enough to have some vague suppositions about the world to come. I needed to know for sure what happens when I close my eyes for the final time in this world. Lee Strobel's style of writing is a reflection of his Pulitzer-winning techniques as a journalist. He records penetrating interviews with experts, researchers, and people with personal experiences across a vast spectrum of specialties and viewpoints. The book reads quickly and easily as the author takes us along on his journey of discovery. The issues he addresses include the universal quest for immortality, evidence for the existence of the soul, the clues that come from near-death experiences, the Bible's teaching on the afterlife, and views on reincarnation. Strobel asks, what's more important than answers to questions like these? Wouldn't you rather investigate these issues now instead of being tormented by them on your deathbed? First Church has selected The Case for Heaven as our book of the year for 2022. We believe it has a powerful relevance to everyone. And as an added incentive to read the book, we have invited the author himself to be with us on November the 14th, 2022. So join the exploration of life's most urgent issue with Lee Strobel and bring your questions on November 14th. To whet your appetite to read The Case for Heaven, let me share a few parts of it that particularly struck me. Insight number one, many people are afraid of death, but one of the experts Strobel interviews believes it's far more than just the anxiety about the experience of pain that might be felt in dying. It's that people are wired to want to live forever. Some who have rejected the path to eternity offered by Christ try to substitute a hope of living on in the memory of their children or becoming famous and living on through their accomplishments, art, literature, music, politics, sports, films, etc. The core problem with this fantasy is that it is only at best a symbolic immortality. The person is still dead, and nothing lasting and meaningful remains of them. Second insight. A Cambridge-trained neuroscientist has explored the question of whether human beings are simply the organ in our head called the brain, or if there is something more to us, a personality or a self-consciousness that could be termed a soul, more than a brain. Her conclusion is that the brain alone is not enough to explain the mind. Consciousness cannot be reduced to the purely physical processes of the brain, and that opens the door to the possibility that when my body takes its last breath in this world, I can actually live on. A third insight. Thousands of so-called near-death experiences, or clinically dead, Strobel's preferred term, have been reported, more so in modern times than previously because medical advances allow more people who are flatlined to be revived. Here are the commonalities found in most people who report this experience. 3/4 experience a separation of consciousness from their physical body, often watching from above as medical personnel try to revive them. 3/4 experience heightened senses or emotions. 2/3 encounter a brilliant or mystical light or meet other beings, either angelic or dead relatives and friends. 1/3 recall a conscious decision to return to life. 1/4 recall undergoing a thorough review of their life. And 1/4 feel a distinct sense of judgment or separation from God. None of these people collaborated with one another. So how could such commonality be explained? The final insight, Strobel's closing chapter reflects on the life and testimony of Nabil Qureshi, who was a Bonita Christian Forum speaker in 2015 and who died in 2017 after a struggle with cancer. Lee quotes Nabil, who said before his death, "If the resurrection is true, then that means when you come to a place where death seems inevitable and there is no way to escape it, death is not the end. There's more. There's hope no matter what." The way Nabil courageously and faithfully embraced the end of his physical life is a powerful encouragement to us. For a fascinating journey into what will ultimately be the most important question we can ever answer, I invite you to join me as we learn from Lee Strobel. Let's look at the evidence for the case for heaven.